That was something that was with me, and I was connected with it throughout my school life, throughout my college life, throughout my prep
Mm-hmm.
as well. So what really came into the content space was the pace engine of eGMAT. Weak areas and what are the continuous steps I want to take if I really wanted to reach at a level of a 99th percentile or 98th percentile in the GMAT. So in my whole journey of GMAT, I took two long breaks, and first one came after a lot of hard work. Me not able to see that hard work translate into a better score. So I took a 10-day break. Then I came back, refreshed my mind, and my mock scores really shot up. And
Mm-hmm.
also, cementing helped me in having a time pressure, a clock where I was solving this particular question, those particular 20 questions in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was something that cementing really helped me.
Got it. What would be the key takeaways from your journey that you would like to share with the other aspirants?
Sure. So the first takeaway would be, I think, not getting bogged down by your mock scores,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and have a realistic approach towards your ability and how much you can score. Logs were a part of my preparation since the very beginning because in the eGMAT course, there's a mention of how you leverage the error logs. So I
Mm-hmm.
was maintaining an error log from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And my focus was that I don't want to make particular mistake again and again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another debrief session with eGMAT. Today, we have with us Mohit, who scored an exceptional 705 with a perfect Q90. So, welcome, Mohit, and thank you for joining in.
Hi, Abba. Thanks for hosting me.
So, Mohit, firstly, a huge congratulations on your score. A 705 is an exceptional score. And what makes your journey all the more powerful is the drastic improvement that you saw in your quant and DI. Right. So, firstly, what was your first reaction when you saw that score on the screen?
Sure. So I think after all of my sections, I was pretty confident about my quants. That the quant section went really well, and I was also pretty confident about my DI.
Mm-hmm.
Verbal is something that has been a bit challenging for me. So yeah, I was sort of relieved when I saw the score, and yeah, it was nothing too unexpected. I thought the paper went really well.
Yeah, right. And talking about your quant section, right? So when you started off your first Sigma X mock, the diagnostic mock you took, you were at a Q81 back then. And at this point, we're talking about a Q90, which is a perfect score in quants,
Yeah,
right? So that in itself, I'm sure, is a journey. Right. So when we talk about your quants,
yeah.
what was your approach and how did you go about tackling the quant section?
Sure. So I think I'll break this up into two parts. First is the content, and second is the sort of the exam management skill that you have. If I talk about the content, I think because I've been in the sort of management, I've done a BBA, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I worked in the consulting space. So for me, the connection with quants has always been there. I have to use quants on a daily basis. Even if I want to appear for other exams in India like CAT, you need to have a strong quantitative ability. And that was something that was with me, and I was connected with it throughout my school life, throughout my college life, throughout my prep
Mm-hmm.
as well. So what really came into the content space was the pace engine of eGMAT. It really helped me to sort of gauge my abilities and really put me quickly on the track if I know the content on.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is where I was really struggling with. It was the exam management skills. GMAT really looks for an eye for detail if you're actually reading every word of the question or not. If you sort of get any detail wrong, the question will fall apart. There are a lot of crappy choices as well. So you need to really look out for an eye for a detail, right? So that is where most of my troubles were. On an overall level for me, the quantitative ability was not that tough. It was more about being careful.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the part where I wanted to improve, and that took me a significant time to improve.
Yeah. Now, since you mentioned the PACE engine, we understand that, you were able to save a lot of time by going through the diagnostic quizzes, focusing on your weak areas, right?
Yeah,
I was looking into your advanced topic stats, and when we talk about hard accuracy, for hard accuracy, initially, when you took your first initial quizzes, you were at a 50%, right? That's not a bad start at all. That does show that, you had the potential. But by the end of it, if you really look into the August stats, you were hitting that 75% 80 accuracy already on the Scholarinium question bank. So,
yeah.
what were the key skills do you feel that are really necessary to actually, ace the quant on the GMAT?
Sure. So I think a few skills would be interpreting the questions carefully, actually looking at what the question wants us to do, and then solving the questions in a methodical manner, such that you're not skipping any parts or you're not missing any details.
Mm-hmm.
So these two skills were something that I really worked on and focused on
Mm-hmm.
in my journey to really improve my accuracy.
Okay. And when you say a methodological approach, right? So, are there particular steps or processes that you followed?
So it was very different for I think each of the topics that I had. For example, if I took an example of the probability and combinations concept, it was actually understanding, visualizing the whole problem.
Mm-hmm.
If I talk about general algebra, it's more about how you're breaking up your sort of inequalities, how you're breaking up the modulus. So it's more of a more academic focus there.
Mm-hmm.
So different topics require different sort of approaches.
Got it. Got it. And moving on to your DI section, because I know when we compare to the other section, DI was the weakest when you started off,
Yeah,
right? You started off with the DI 76, which is a 58th percentile. Okay.
yeah.
And at this point, you're standing at a 94th percentile. So the maximum improvement or the driver for your entire success hugely weighs upon DI.
Yeah.
Right. So in DI, what were the challenges that you initially faced and how did you go about overcoming them?
Sure. So interpreting data is something that I really enjoy. And if we talk about from a GMAT perspective, that's just one part of solving a particular question.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think the eye for the detail comes into data insights as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
you might be given a data, you'll be able to interpret it accordingly. But if you want to solve 20 questions in 45 minutes, you really need to work on your timing. And you also really need to get up to speed on what the question is asking. And then again, focus on every detail of that particular question. So, a lot of the time, why I was getting the DI questions wrong was I was maybe able to understand the data correctly and draw inferences upon it, but I was not able to interpret what the question was actually asking me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and based on that, I worked on that. There were a few weak topics. For example, I was struggling with, I think, graphics interpretation and table analysis initially, but then I really practiced on that particular topic. And I guess you also helped me sort of identify my weak areas, put it on a smart sheet, and really have a focused approach on practicing on that particular sort of schedule. That
Mm-hmm.
really helped me and build my ideas.
Yes. Now, since you spoke about, that we could identify a weak area. So we use the skill data on the platform. We identified that GITA is an issue, right? Within GITA also certain kind of topics. So how did you go about focusing on them? So when you say that I focused on them, I tried to overcome my weaknesses. So what were the steps that you used to take?
Sure. So, firstly, identify, in fact, even on a more level two basis, the subtopics of the topics in which I was sort of struggling with. Then
Mm-hmm.
picking up OG questions and the questions on Scholararium for that particular subtopic, and then actually working on it, and then identifying what were the common mistakes I was making in those particular questions, and
Mm-hmm.
then re-strategizing or giving a new approach on my problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the sort of steps and the sort of journey that I took on for that particular improvement.
Got it. Got it. So I was looking into your Scholarinium stats, especially the DI portion, right? Where we could see that, by the end of it, if you look into the last 20 hard accuracies, you were almost already in the bracket of that 85th percentile above for each of the sections, right? And when we talk about your journey, you have followed the stage one, stage two approach, where stage two is majorly focusing on the cementing quizzes, right? So, when we talk about cementing, how did that benefit your journey?
Sure. So, as I mentioned that I was making a lot of silly errors and a lot of errors which which are not expected when you're actually understanding the whole data set,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're making those errors. So there was a gap in understanding the question and then applying that particular information.
Yeah.
So cementing really helped me evade that problem, and
Mm-hmm.
also cementing helped me in having a time pressure, a clock where I was solving this particular question, those particular 20 questions in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was something that cementing really helped me.
Got it. Got it. So, Mohit, in your journey, you were part of the last mile push program as well, right? Since you were a diligent student, you were consistently showing that you're putting in the efforts. You were enrolled in the LMP. So, when someone is starting with a GMAT preparation, this kind of support, right? This kind of ecosystem that is constructed, what was the role that it had in your journey? And how were you able to leverage that?
So I think LMP was something that was really transformational and had the most impact on my GMAT journey. Um, I wanted to get done with GMAT, but I did not have a proper strategy. So I used to spend a lot of time on the eGMAT portal and used to do a lot of exercises. But it was not very pinpointy, sort of very strategic in nature. LMP sort of made me realize that, and also made me build a strategy, identify my key weak areas, and what are the continuous steps I want to take if I really wanted to reach at a level of a 99th percentile or 98th percentile in the GMAT. So it
Mm-hmm.
was crucial for me in that sort of scenario. And I think without the LMP, it would have taken me a lot more time than it actually did for my GMAT journey. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was very crucial for me.
Yeah, right. And since we were working together in the Last Mile Push program, we had broken down your entire journey into milestones and we were tracking your progress. So once you had achieved all the subsectional milestones, we moved to the final mock phase,
Yeah.
right? And as we know that while you were hitting the sectional targets, you were doing well on the cementing, that transition to the mocks wasn't that smooth for you initially,
Yeah.
right? It was a bit of a rusty edge there. So, what were the challenges that you were facing in the mocks and how did you go about overcoming them?
Yeah. So my mocks were very inconsistent with what I was actually scoring in my sectional exams.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another element to GMAT, which is your exam management skills, and that is very crucial for you to master, and that I think comes from practice in the number of mocks that you're giving. So
Mm-hmm.
initially, my timing used to be very off. I used to get easy questions incorrect. Uh, Again, those factors of not paying attention to the particular question, not paying attention to that particular sort of thing that the question is looking for, used to come in between. I used to spend a lot of time on one particular question, which used to account for an opportunity cost for other questions.
Mm-hmm.
These were sort of areas where I needed to work hard, and where I think giving a lot of mocks really helped me. In the start, I was not performing that well. Then I started to perform really well. Then again, I sort of declined in my mock performances. But towards the end of my attempt, the mock scores were again very high. So yeah, I
Yeah.
was confident. Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, even before just a week before my actual second attempt, where I scored a 705, the mock scores were not that great.
Mm-hmm.
But just 2 or 3 days before, the last two mocks that I gave, they were well.
Yeah.
It was quite a journey.
Yes, right. And I think in your case, while the ability was always there, right? The ability was something that you had proven time and again, that transition bit was a problem. So, do you feel that ability and mindset, you know, have to be in sync to succeed on GMAT?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Mindset is a separate skill set that you need to sort of get yourself into and work on it if you're not that great.
Yeah. And how did you go about focusing on the mindset? Because I know that there were times that, you were disheartened with the mocks, right? There were times that you thought that it's not going to happen also, right? That the target is not going to be achievable. So did you do anything particularly for yourself that really changed the way that you were going about taking the tests?
So in my whole journey of GMAT, I took two long breaks.
Hmm.
And first one came after a lot of hard work, me not able to see that hard work translate into a better score.
Hmm.
So I took a 10-day break.
Hmm.
Then I came back, refreshed my mind, and my mock scores really shot up.
Yeah.
Again, I got stuck in that particular score zone. Took
Hmm.
another sort of 10-day break. Uh, Then my mock score again shot up.
Yeah.
So yeah, these two breaks were really important for me
Hmm.
because I was looking at GMAT from a perspective that I just want to get done with it, get away with it.
Hmm.
And in that, I used to push myself really hard, but then I sort of realized that maybe taking a break, thinking about it, taking a more strategic route would
Hmm.
help.
Okay. And what was the sequence that you used to follow in mocks? So you had taken a lot of mini sectional tests also, right? So these mini sectional tests, what were the main essence of these tests and how do they prepare you for the mocks or the actual test?
Sure. So my mocks, so in my sectional text, I realized that quant is my strongest suit,
Mm-hmm.
and data insights is also quite heavy on the quant.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm able to start with that, with those questions, I will be getting a bit easier questions. If I, let's say, start with a more, uh, uh, with a, with a, with an alternate approach where I start from verbal, then I might not get uh, easier question for points. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that I'm making no mistakes in quants and data insights. Hence, I decided to take uh, that sequence, and I always practiced that sequence only. I never changed in any of my mocks.
Mm-hmm.
The sequence remains same.
Okay. So let's go into now the test day,
Yeah,
right? So here you are, it's your test. So why don't you walk us through your test day experience?
sure. So my order was Q, data insight, and then verbal. Uh, in quants, the first question came, and I was not able to solve the question.
Mm,
So I spent a considerable amount of time, 5 to 6 minutes,
mm,
and I still wasn't able to solve the question. I saw the timer, and it showed me that 39 minutes were left.
yeah.
I had to make a decision at that point of time if I'm spending another minute on it, but I thought that it was too costly for me.
Mm,
But in the back of my mind, I knew that the first question, if I do it wrong, I won't be able to score more than 80 Q85, even if I get all the questions.
mm,
Uh, then the next question came. It was fairly easy.
mm,
The next, I would say, the set of 20 questions that came, they were really easy. I could breeze past them.
mhm,
I barely took more than 90 seconds in any of the questions. In
mhm,
fact, I would say in almost 10 of the questions, I took even less than a minute.
mm,
Uh, and after completing the section, I was left with 12 minutes.
mhm,
So that was something that was really relieving because I could go back to the first question. I went back to the first question. I still couldn't solve it, but
mhm.
I thought about it again and again. And
Yep.
I took another 5 minutes and I was able to finally solve it.
Mm,
So I edited the answer, changed the incorrect answer to correct answer. Then I
mm,
was left with another 6 minutes, went back and checked all the questions
mm,
and
mm,
found another mistake coincidentally.
mm.
And I changed that particular answer as well.
Yeah.
But after that edit, I was fairly confident that I should be getting a Q88 at least, even if I've missed
Mhm,
another question. But
mm.
I sort of did get a Q9.
Yeah.
Uh, Data insights, again, I was struggling with a lot of timing issue in my mocks.
Mm,
on the exam day, uh, the the strategies that we had worked on
Mm-hmm.
in LMP sort of applied the same strategy, did not have so much of a timing issue,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up with a Q82 there,
Mm-hmm.
94th percentile. It also went pretty smooth. The
Mm.
verbal section, which was very inconsistent for me,
Yeah.
even up till the last sort of phase of my preparation.
Mm.
That I was fairly feeling very confident in, very comfortable with the question. I
Mm.
was able to apply my mind. I was able to comprehend everything.
Mm-hmm.
That also went well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ended up with the 705 with the DI 83.
Yeah, right. In Dia, you mentioned that, there was a timing issue that you faced initially also, right?
Yeah,
So could you elaborate on the corrective actions that you worked upon?
sure. So the corrective action was purely from a mock taking perspective.
Mm.
Because even after realizing that I was taking a lot of time in my sectionals that I was taking alone, I did not face that particular timing issue.
Yeah.
So I realized that it was more of a mock pressure that I had. I
Mm.
realized that and I worked on it. And specifically, that timing issue was stemming from the MSR questions that are there. I
Mm.
was taking a lot of time in the MSR, which didn't leave me a lot of time for other questions.
Mm.
Worked on it and put up a deadline on every question that I have to. And even if any situation arises where I have to skip that particular question, I would take that call and skip that particular question so that I could do the rest of the questions correct.
Yeah. Right. And Mohit, if we summarize your journey, this has been a good about 3 to 3.5 months where you got from a 595 to 705, right?
Yeah,
So what was your normal routine like? How much time would you be putting in? Because I know that you were simultaneously juggling with your work,
yeah.
right? You're a working professional. There was no sabbatical or no leaves happening there, right? So what was your usual routine that you would commit for just for GMAT prep?
Sure. So I started in June, and June was a period of time where I was not working, and I thought that 1 month would be enough for my GMAT journey. I wanted to get away with it.
Mm.
But I think situations didn't allow me to do that. There were a lot of things that I wanted to work on. So in July and August, I had to juggle my work and the GMAT prep together. So in June, I
Mm.
was putting about 6 to 7 hours every day. But that was
Mm.
also a period of time where I really need to work on my content and the actual curriculum. And July and August were more from a strategic point of view, where
Mm.
I had to improve my exam taking skills, my timing issue, other issues related to.
Mm.
So in July and August, I was putting in about 4 hours every day, four to
Mhm.
five hours. And I think I was really pushing hard also in my initial journey.
Mm.
Uh, it was more quantitative than qualitative,
Mhm.
and the LMP also sort of made me realize that.
Mm.
So made a more balanced schedule in the later half of the journey,
Mm.
and didn't take a lot of pressure also, I would say.
Mm. Okay. And what about error logs and note making? Because when you're talking about improvement, right? And when you're talking about reviewing the quizzes, you said that cementing quizzes helped you identify your gaps. So what is the process that you followed to identify the gaps, and how did you leverage error logs in your journey?
Sure. So error logs were a part of my preparation since the very beginning because in the eGMAT course, there's a mention of how you leverage the error logs. So I
Mm-hmm.
was maintaining an error log from the very beginning.
Mm.
And my focus was that I don't want to make particular mistake again and again. If I've
Mm.
made a particular mistake, I don't want to repeat. That was something that I had in my mind since the very
Mm.
beginning. And error log really sort of made it convenient to actually check what all mistakes I had made and not
Mm.
make it again in future. A lot of the GMAT questions are based on very similar patterns, so
Mm-hmm.
error log really helps you sort of gauge that particular mistake that you're making.
Okay. And when you say the mistakes, right? So let's give an example. So what kind of mistakes were you able to identify that, were something unconsciously common mistakes that you were doing in your verbal section?
All right, so in my verbal section, any particular mistake? Not able to remember it off the bat right now. But I think a lot of problems in critical reasoning, let's say if X causes Y, uh, you have to negate that. Then
Mm-hmm.
if Y would cause X, it would negate it. That is a pattern that comes in a lot of GMAT questions. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a question I was getting wrong, consistently wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So my error log really pointed that out. So the number of times I've got this wrong
Mm-hmm.
and what all scenarios did I get this particular logic wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that really helped me. So there were a lot of similar problems
Mm-hmm.
where where I could just actively point out that this particular logic exists. I could recall it from my error log and put it in a more practical use.
Understood. Understood. Now, my last and final question to you would be that when you look back at your journey, right? It's been a good about 3.5 months. It's been a very impressive journey from a 595 to a 705 right now. So when you look back at your journey, what would be the key takeaways or from your journey that you would like to share with the other aspirants?
Sure. So the first takeaway would be, I think, not getting bogged down by your mock scores,
Mm-hmm.
and have a realistic approach towards your ability and how much you can score.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, if you have that particular ability and you're not able to translate that in your mock scores, that means that there is a process related and a strategic error that you're making.
Yeah.
And if you really work on it, you can get to that particular score that you're aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a mismatch between your ability score and your mock score, then there's a work that needs to be done on a separate set of skill
Yeah.
rather than actually focusing on curriculum again and again and just blindly giving the sectionals, revising everything.
Mm-hmm.
You should also have the ability to take a step back and have an honest conversation with yourself of what is happening, what are you doing, are you even conscious about what your mock taking ability is, or
Mm-hmm.
what you're actually doing, or the kind of decisions that you're taking during the exam. So this was a big takeaway for
Mm-hmm.
me in this whole GMAT journey.
Yeah.
Rest of the things, I think it was pretty common with every other GMAT aspirant that,
Mm-hmm.
be always motivated, have a realistic approach. The approach is to solve questions, the academic part, the curriculum part.
Yeah.
That was pretty common that I shared with the other GMAT aspirants.
Yes, yes. Mohit, I couldn't have, agreed more with you, but because being honest with you in your preparation, right? Understanding that these might be your weak areas, because if we as students do not accept it, then we are losing out on the scope for growth also, right?
Yeah,
I think in your journey, since, I had the chance to work with you, I can say that, you were quite open to feedback, right?
yeah,
And you used to make a very, very conscious effort to actually get things done. And eventually, I think it's worked out fairly well. So,
yeah,
yeah, so I think it's a happy ending on that part.
yeah,
So, so, coming to the end, I think I would like to take this opportunity, Mohit, to thank you for really joining in today and sharing your feedback, right? And sharing your instances from your journey. And I'm sure it's going to inspire a lot of GMAT aspirants there. So thanks again. And I wish you all the best for your next stage, the application, which is equally
yeah,
crucial,
yeah.
right?
That's true.
So I wish you all the best from the entire GMAT team, Mohit.
Thanks, Abha. I think the LMP also really helped me get to where my score is today, and wanted to thank you for that as well. And
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks,
looking
Mohit.
forward to the journey.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.